Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. If you have questions for the next edition of Q&A with the Coach, just leave them in the comments down below or email me at ramseydewey@gmail.com. Today, our friend Abraham Lincoln. Mr. President, thank you for writing. Old Abe says, hey Ramsey, I know this question is off topic, but I value your wisdom and would like some advice. Okay, thank you, appreciate that. He says, my cat is nearing death. He's 10 years old with some respiratory problems, and my family's really torn up about it, and I'm trying my best to keep it together. I'm a young, somewhat emotionally unintelligent guy, and I've never had to deal with loss like this before. I could really use some insight and advice. Thank you in advance. Keep up the good work. Okay. You have a beloved family pet. You know it's going to die. It's sick. It's on the older side for a cat. 10 years old is pretty old for a cat. Some cats can live a little longer, but not by much. You know, even in the wild, a tiger lives about 12 years. Interesting fact about tigers. I heard an ecologist surmise that if tigers lived just 2 years longer on average, so instead of 12 years, 14 years, they would decimate the wildlife populations of their habitats because there would simply be too many tigers out there and not enough food for them. So, there is great wisdom in the natural life cycle of a feline, such as a tiger or even a common house cat, in the fact that there is a limit to our duration in mortality on this planet. Now, that's probably not particularly comforting because your poor old friend, the cat, is at death's door. And I understand that, and I sympathize that. I've had beloved pet cats and dogs as a child and as a young man, and when they died, it was sad. It was a sad thing. I remember shedding tears when my dog, my beloved dog, died. It was the first day of school. I think I was 9 years old. It was the first day of school. I was very excited about starting off a new school year, and I wake up that morning and my dog is dead. And it just set a very dark cloud on what seemed like a very bright, cheerful day. And it felt like not just a generic pet, but a close personal friend who was as much a part of me and my life experience as my own arms and legs was just taken away. And I missed him. I missed him so much. We had 2 dogs, and they had puppies. They had several litters of puppies, and the folks around town, they really liked these dogs, and we would give them away, the puppies. And one of my friends from school, he adopted one of the puppies of my dogs, and it looked exactly like my dog that died. And I remember when the school bus would drop him off, they'd drop him off first. He'd walk up to his house and open up the gate, and his dog, it was this white fluffy dog, would run up to him and jump on him just like my dog used to jump up on me, and it looked exactly like him. And it was a bittersweet moment. It was like, oh, I want that experience back. And at the same time, it was like, actually, that's really cool, because it's like my dog and his legacy is living on and bringing that same kind of joy to another person, and that's amazing. It's like he's still alive. But man, I haven't thought about this for a while. But I know it might seem like a silly question. Oh, your cat died, whatever. What's a tough cage fighting coach going to tell you about that? But man, what kind of heartless troll could turn their nose up at a beloved pet facing certain doom. Just kind of a sad situation. I get it, man. I get it. So I had this dream sometime later. As a 9-year-old boy, I had this dream that I was in this place and I thought this must be heaven. It was white and bright and glorious. I'm like, did I die and go to heaven? I don't know. It's like what heaven was in my childhood mind. And then I see my dog, this white fluffy dog. It was an Alaskan Spitz, kind of looks like a white wolf. They're these northern sled dogs. And I see my dog, and I'm so happy to see him. I'm like, you're here. It was like I was seeing my dog's soul up in heaven looking at me, and I'm like, and I run to him. And then my dog goes from happy to see me, gets this very concerned expression on my face, and he jumps on me and he pushes me back, as if to say, no, not yet. You stay. And I wake up with a start, and it was frightening. I was like, but I wanted to spend time with my dog again. And it was like he was telling me something, like, no. You got something else to do first, buddy. Man, dogs and cats are interesting when they die. It's like, sometimes they seem to know. I had a pet cat, and it was this really big, heavy cat. Like an unusually large cat. And this cat sometimes would, at night, cats are nocturnal, so they don't always sleep at night. But at night, he would come and he would sit on my chest and just sit there, and he would purr, and he'd had the loudest purr. And it would just go on, and he'd be like crushing me, especially because I was really skinny and weak as a child. So he'd be sitting on my chest just crushing me like, and I'd be like, get off. And he'd just be sitting there. And anyway, fascinating creature though. Loved that cat. But when he got old, I think he was about 12, maybe 13 years old, about the age of an old tiger about to give up the ghost. One day he looked at me, this old cat, and he was starting to get some white hairs on him. He was an all-black cat, but I could see some white hairs forming on him. And he looked up at me with this knowing glance, as if to say, I'm done. It's my time. I'm going to go now. And then he crawled under the bed and died that instant. Just gave me that knowing look, crawled under the bed, and he died. So on this end of the perspective, on this end of the equation, death seems really sad, man. And I've got my own set of personal beliefs about death and the hereafter and so on. And I could share those with you, and some people might be like, no, that's not how it is, because I believe something else. But if you want to know about God and the hereafter and souls and all that, go talk to God about that, man. But this life, I'll tell you a little bit about what I believe. This life, it's just one act in the story. And it's very easy to put all of our attention and focus onto the here and now and think this is all there is, this is all that matters. And then look up into the sky as people have done for millennia, and look out at all the matter out there in the eternity of space that transcends this here and now. And it's impossible to not realize, man, there's a lot more than just this, than just what we know and understand and can comprehend at this point. Death is a fascinating event because it gets us asking some really important questions. And the really important questions are those that don't have clear-cut, demonstrable answers, because they force us to think and they force us to grow. I think it's very important for children to have pets. My children right now, they've never had a pet before, because we live in this small apartment in this huge city in Shanghai. But I think it's important for children to have pets so that they can experience that love of an animal and then the loss of that dear close friend. Because that is such an important experience for human beings to have. And that might sound kind of cruel the way I spelled that out there. It is so important for us to meet death, to understand death, to learn from death, and ultimately to learn to accept death. Bringing this back to martial arts, a quote I've shared a number of times before. I'll paraphrase a bit. All people know that they're going to die on an academic level. Noble women understand this. Kings know it. Priests know it. Beggars know it. But to a warrior, they understand that at a different level. Not just an academic level. They understand not just that death is something that's going to happen eventually. They understand death will happen. And they've accepted it. Which is why they're warriors. The code of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death. That's the direct quote. The code of the warrior is the resolute acceptance of death. And that does not mean to be some brash macho dude out there like, I'm not afraid to die. It's just acknowledging what life is. So that little animal, that little house cat, it's fighting a battle right now. And it's going to lose, you know it, and that cat knows it too. Cats don't know a lot of things, but they do know a few things about death. And they do accept it. All the cats I've known, anyway, have accepted death at a level that I don't think most humans can. That's one thing that's very different about humans and animals, I notice, is the way we accept death or not. So I had a bunch of pets growing up, and a lot of them died, and over the years, we held funerals for them, buried them in the backyard when they passed. And that was one thing, and that's important for a child to experience. That's important for a person to experience. And years later, my grandmother died, and it was a different experience. It was a very different experience. Because it wasn't just a pet, a close friend, an animal that felt like, this is this is really neat to have around. But it was this person without whose existence I would not be in this world. I was reading some of the biography of a great grandfather of mine, and how he had many near-death experiences. Like, so many near-death experiences, it was ridiculous. And as I was reading about each of these experiences in his own words, I kept thinking, man, if he wasn't there, I wouldn't be here. My kids wouldn't be here. That would have been it. That would have been it for my entire line of progeny and family and being and existence in this physical realm, as it were. How weird is that? How weird is that? That evading death for this guy 50 times in a row, 100 times in a row, whatever it was, some ridiculous number of times. And the guy got boiled alive, trampled by bulls, all kinds of crazy stuff, and managed to live through it miraculously. So, my condolences, my friend, for the loss of your friend. That being said, take courage, look your little cat in the eye on his last day, and I imagine he'll give you an understanding, knowing look, and maybe he'll tell you something. Maybe he'll tell you, I'll go. You stay. You still have some stuff to do here. I'll catch you later on the other side.